Zendaya, one of Hollywood's most adored stars, was invited to the Kelly Clarkson Show for what was supposed to be a light-hearted and fun interview. Fans were excited to see their favorite actress, singer, and style icon discuss her latest projects and reflect on her career. Kelly Clarkson, ever the engaging host, was enthusiastic as she welcomed Zendaya to the set, exchanging pleasantries and setting the stage for an engaging conversation. But little did they know, things were about to take an unexpected turn. As the interview began, the two women started by discussing Zendaya's latest project, a highly anticipated film she had recently wrapped up. Zendaya spoke about the challenges she faced in portraying her character and the joy of working with the talented cast. Kelly, as usual, asked her thoughtful questions, keeping the conversation light and full of humor. The audience was engaged, and the chemistry between the host and the guest seemed genuine. However, as the interview progressed, it became clear that the tone would soon shift. The topic of fame and its impact on Zendaya's life came up, and Kelly, wanting to probe deeper, asked Zendaya how she handled the pressures of being a public figure. Zendaya paused for a moment, choosing her words carefully. She spoke candidly about the challenges of living under constant scrutiny but also emphasized the importance of maintaining privacy. Kelly, seemingly wanting to keep the conversation light, followed up with a more personal question, asking Zendaya about the most difficult aspect of fame. This question, though well-meaning, started to make Zendaya visibly uncomfortable. Kelly, noticing the shift in Zendaya's demeanor, pushed on, asking more about her personal life and how she managed relationships while in the public eye. Zendaya's expression changed slightly as she hesitated before answering. "I believe there are parts of my life that are just for me, and I don't feel the need to share everything with the public," she replied, her tone measured but firm. Kelly, however, didn't seem ready to back off, pushing a little further, asking about Zendaya's romantic relationships and how fame affected them. That's when the tension started to rise. Zendaya, who had always been known for her poison grace, took a deep breath before responding. "I've always kept my personal life private because I believe it's important to have boundaries, especially when the world is watching every move you make," she said. Kelly, though understanding, seemed to take the question a bit further, suggesting that Zendaya's fans would love to know more about her life outside of the spotlight. This comment seemed to rub Zendaya the wrong way, and her patience was starting to wear thin. "I understand that people are curious, but that doesn't mean I owe anyone my personal details," Zendaya said, her voice becoming slightly more assertive. Kelly, perhaps not fully understanding the discomfort, made a joke to lighten the mood. But the joke didn't land well. Zendaya's smile faltered, and the audience could sense the tension mounting between the two. The moment was palpable, and it seemed as though Zendaya was ready to take control of the situation. But before anyone could react, the situation escalated further. Kelly, trying to steer the conversation in a different direction, casually asked Zendaya if she thought fame had become more difficult in the social media age. Zendaya, who had dealt with both the highs and lows of social media attention, paused. "It's not just about fame, Kelly. It's about the way people think they can have access to every part of your life," Zendaya responded, her tone growing more serious. The room fell silent for a brief moment, and Kelly, sensing the shift, tried to quickly change the subject to Zendaya's upcoming projects. However, Zendaya wasn't having it. "We can talk about my work, but I'm not going to let this be another conversation about my private life," she stated firmly. The audience, at this point, was on edge, unsure of what was happening. Kelly, trying to keep the conversation light, asked Zendaya what it was like working with her co-stars in her new film. But Zendaya, clearly frustrated, leaned forward in her seat and made it clear that the line had been crossed. "I've already told you where I stand on that," she said, her eyes meeting Kelly's. Kelly, perhaps sensing the discomfort, tried to apologize, explaining that she didn't mean to cross any boundaries. But Zendaya, visibly upset, shook her head. "It's not about you crossing a line, Kelly. It's about the constant pressure to talk about things that are none of anyone's business," she said. The tone in her voice was direct, and there was no mistaking the seriousness of her words. The audience, still processing the sudden shift, sat in stunned silence, watching the tension between the two stars grow. At this point, Zendaya stood up, her decision to walk off the set now clear. She glanced at Kelly, who looked taken aback but still seated. "I think we're done here," Zendaya said firmly, turning to leave the set. The crew, who had been silent up until this moment, began to stir, unsure of how to respond. Kelly, still in her chair, looked momentarily stunned before attempting to apologize once more. "I'm sorry, Zendaya, I didn't mean to upset you," she said, but Zendaya had already started to walk off. The camera remained fixed on Kelly as she turned to the audience, who were in disbelief. The silence in the studio was deafening. "Well, folks, sometimes interviews don't go as planned," Kelly said, attempting to salvage the moment. She awkwardly apologized again, saying that she respected Zendaya's boundaries and hoped there were no hard feelings. But the damage had already been done. The viral moment of Zendaya walking off Kelly's show had already made headlines. Backstage, Zendaya's departure was met with a mix of shock and concern. Her team rushed to meet her, checking if she was okay. Zendaya, though visibly upset, maintained her composure, explaining that she felt her boundaries had been disrespected. "I don't mind talking about my work, but there are certain things that should remain private," she said to her team. Zendaya's decision to walk off was not about anger, it was about protecting herself in an industry that constantly demands more than what's fair. The incident quickly made waves on social media. Fans of Zendaya immediately took to Twitter, praising her for standing up for her personal boundaries. "Zendaya is a queen for walking off the show and setting boundaries with Kelly Clarkson," one tweet read. Others expressed their disappointment with Kelly, suggesting that the host should have known better than to press so hard on personal topics. Some even created memes and hashtags in support of Zendaya, further fueling the viral nature of the moment. Kelly Clarkson's social media accounts were flooded with comments from both fans and critics. While many supported her and understood that she hadn't meant to upset Zendaya, others questioned her approach to the interview. The backlash wasn't overwhelming, but it was noticeable. Kelly, who was always known for her kind and approachable demeanor, now found herself facing a different kind of scrutiny, a reminder that even the most well-intentioned interviews could go wrong in an instant. Zendaya, on the other hand, remained silent for a while. Her fans rallied behind her, but the star didn't immediately address the incident. Some speculated that Zendaya was taking time to process what had happened before making any public statements. The idea of having her privacy and personal boundaries respected was something Zendaya had always valued, and the walk-off seemed like a way for her to reinforce that message. As the dust settled, Zendaya's team released a short statement, confirming that she had left the show due to feeling uncomfortable with the questions being asked. Zendaya has always been an advocate for privacy, and she has the right to protect her personal boundaries, the statement read. While she appreciates Kelly's support, some questions simply crossed the line. The statement did little to quell the speculation, but it made Zendaya's stance clear. Her boundaries were non-negotiable. Kelly, in turn, posted a heartfelt apology on social media, acknowledging the mistake and promising to do better in the future. "I want to sincerely apologize to Zendaya and anyone who felt uncomfortable during our interview. It was never my intention to make her feel disrespected," Kelly wrote. "I respect her as an artist, a woman, and a human being, and I've learned a valuable lesson about the importance of respecting personal boundaries." The viral moment became a talking point in interviews with other celebrities, who shared their thoughts on the importance of respecting boundaries in the entertainment industry. Many stars praised Zendaya for her courage to walk away, while others discussed how difficult it could be to navigate personal questions from the media. The incident sparked a wider conversation about the ethics of celebrity interviews and the importance of keeping certain topics off limits. In the weeks following the walk-off, Zendaya continued to promote her work, but the incident remained a topic of discussion. On social media, she shared a post celebrating the success of her latest project but also subtly reminded her followers that fame should never come at the cost of privacy. "It's important to stay true to yourself and protect your peace," Zendaya wrote, earning praise from fans who admired her for setting boundaries in a very public way. As Zendaya's influence in the entertainment world grew, she was invited to speak at various industry panels about privacy, mental health, and boundaries in the spotlight. During these discussions, she often referenced the incident on the Kelly Clarkson Show, not as a moment of anger, but as a turning point in her career. "I realized that sometimes silence speaks louder than words," she explained during one panel. "It was important for me to walk away, not just for myself, but for everyone who feels like their boundaries aren't respected." The conversation around celebrity boundaries became a central topic in Hollywood circles. Zendaya's walk-off was cited as an example of how stars could assert control over their public image while still maintaining respect for their privacy. Public relations experts and agents began advising their clients to establish clear boundaries with media outlets before interviews, with an emphasis on being transparent about what was off-limits. This shift not only benefited celebrities but also led to more ethical interview practices. Zendaya's approach to interviews changed, as she became more selective about the platforms she chose to speak on. She started participating in podcasts and interviews that focused on meaningful conversations, such as discussions about mental health, activism, and her work in the film industry. This allowed her to control the narrative and avoid being placed in situations where her personal life was used as a talking point. Her fans loved this shift, as it aligned with her image of being authentic and true to herself. The media, too, had to adapt. Talk shows that once relied on sensationalist questions began to reevaluate their formats. Hosts like Jimmy Fallon and Ellen DeGeneres, who had often leaned into playful teasing or personal probing, started shifting the direction of their shows to focus more on creative projects and career accomplishments. It became apparent that audiences were increasingly more interested in seeing their favorite celebrities speak about their passions, rather than their private lives. Zendaya's role in Hollywood also expanded as she became more vocal about the need for diversity and inclusion in the entertainment industry. She used her platform to speak out on social issues, and her voice became one that was not only heard in the media but also respected. She worked closely with organizations that advocated for racial equality and women's rights, and her involvement in these causes only solidified her status as a leader in both the entertainment world and social justice movements. The walk-off, though still a talking point in media discussions, eventually became a part of Zendaya's larger narrative as a multifaceted artist and advocate. It wasn't just the moment she walked off a talk show, it was the beginning of her defining role as someone who stood up for herself and others. Fans and critics alike saw her as a figure who could balance her public persona with her personal values without compromising either. Kelly Clarkson, too, grew from the experience. She often spoke about the walk-off in interviews, explaining that it had taught her a valuable lesson in empathy. "We're all human," Kelly said during a later episode of her show, "and sometimes, even with the best intentions, we can make mistakes. What matters is how we learn from them." This acknowledgement of her mistake earned her praise for her humility and willingness to grow from a difficult situation. As Zendaya continued to carve her path in Hollywood, her message about respecting boundaries resonated deeply with her fanbase, especially younger generations who admired her courage. She had always been open about the importance of mental health and taking care of oneself, and her walk-off incident reinforced that message. Her fans began to see her not just as a talented actress, but as a role model for setting healthy boundaries in both their personal and professional lives. Looking back on the incident, it became clear that Zendaya's walk-off had a lasting impact on the way the entertainment industry handled interviews. It was no longer just about asking the next big question for ratings, it was about respecting the people behind the headlines. Celebrities, both new and established, began to understand that they had the power to walk away, to assert their boundaries, and to reclaim control over how their stories were told. Zendaya's journey since that walk-off has been one of continued success, but more importantly, one of personal growth. She remains true to her values and continues to inspire millions with her authenticity, self-respect, and commitment to making a difference in the world. The Kelly Clarkson Show incident, once seen as a controversial moment, has since become a testament to Zendaya's strength and determination to prioritize her mental health and well-being above all else.